All right, so let's take a look at a couple different wet ends. So these are pump wet ends. So people call them like a volute. Essentially, we have a 48 frame LX and a 56 frame waterway. The waterway is like a 4 or 5 horsepower. This, I believe, is a 2 or 2.5. So let's start with the waterway, actually. So we're going to find a couple things here. Let's turn it over. Now, by looking at it, we can tell that it's a 56 frame. So how can we tell that? Look at the nuts, essentially, that you would secure the through bolts from the pump. They are on the outside. If they were on the inside, that would be for the 48 frame. This is a 56. Now, in some cases, what you'll find is if a wet end has, holes both on the inside and outside for the sizes needed for either a 48 or 56 frame motor, it will allow for both. In this case, it does not. It's only going to secure on as a 56. But some manufacturers will make a wet end that is for both a 56 and a 48. So occasionally customers say, the wet end I received is too big. That's not the case because it's used for both a 56 and a 48. So this is a waterway. This is an LX. This is a little bit different here. Similar design, similar structure. Actually, you can see the discharge kind of lines up similarly. Same 3-inch, about 3-inch OD, 2-inch ID. Same on both of these as well. This one looks a little fatter, but actually it's a 2-inch ID, 3-inch OD essentially. So these will both be considered 2x2 inch. Okay. So this LX is 48 frame only. We're going to turn it over here. You can see only has the option to secure the motor on as a 48 frame. So this one cannot be a 56 frame. Now there's some interesting differences here with the two. So let's take, again, this is the faceplate. So this is the faceplate. So we're going to take both off, turn them over here. Now you see they look quite a bit different, right? The idea is similar, but there's some differences here. Let's start with this. This I find interesting on the LX. So we have these holes that are passing through the faceplate. These go into the interior of the wet end. So what would happen is there would be either 3 plugs plugging these holes, or there would be maybe 2 plugs, and then one of them would be connected to, some people call it like an air bleeder line, some people call it a freeze line adapter. It would screw into this faceplate, and then usually it's going to be 3/8 inch hose that's going to secure to that. So in this case of this LX, it gives us 3 options, which is kind of nice. So if we're limited on length of hose and the wet end is this way and our hose is coming from over here, we could use that right there. Now on the waterway here, we only have one option. So we look at that. It wouldn't even, you could put plugs in there, and actually it came with plugs, but it really wouldn't need plugs because you can see that it's not drilled all the way through. So only one of these is drilled all the way through. So this one right here would be where we are connecting that freeze line adapter, air bleeder. So again, this is the waterway. So in a case where maybe, we're doing this, hose is coming in here. Okay, well, we don't have enough hose, right? So in that case, there are kits that come with a little bit extra hose, a simple barb adapter that will allow that hose to extend far enough to go into the one place that we can put that in there. So a couple other differences. This is obviously a little bit of a larger, I don't want to say better made, but it's a well-made wet end. This one's quite a bit smaller, quite a bit lighter. A couple things here as well with the waterway. Turn it over. We're going to see 2 of the O-rings around the faceplate here. Got some grease on them, some lube. All right, set that down. The LX. We're only going to see 1. Okay, set that down. Let's look at components inside this wet end here. By looking at it, you can see that they're the same or similar at least. They both have a wear ring. This is called a wear ring. So what that's doing is it's kind of allowing for the tight seal between the impeller. So remember, that's the impeller and the actual faceplate. It's creating that tighter seal against that. So the wear ring's pretty important. I have seen people forget it when they're replacing impeller. And I don't know, occasionally they might not notice on certain wet ends, but it is important to put that back on. They can use the wear ring from their old impeller, their old wet end when they're replacing their impeller. So take that wear ring off. Same thing here. Here's our wear ring. And if you look, regardless of 56 or 48 frame, they're very similar. How do I know which is which? Well, if you look at the Waterway, Waterway does a good job at this. It's hard to see, but there is a part number right there. It's very blurry. There it is. 319, looks like 319-1370. So Waterway does a good job of putting their part numbers on pretty much everything. Now let's look at the impellers. This is where the difference is pretty significant. You kind of look at how the impeller is constructed. You can visualize how it's moving water, right? Same thing here. You know, similar construction. You probably already noticed something different about the two. Let's start with this one. This is pretty standard impeller. It's a good looking impeller. It's got some, you know, good weight to it. It's well made, well constructed. Again, probably somewhere on here, right in there, they're gonna have the part number. So if a customer needs a Waterway impeller, usually they can just go and look at that part number. Kind of see how it's instructed or how it's constructed. So the actual motor shaft is going to screw in right there. I have seen these break before. You get stuck on the motor shaft, and then maybe people have a hard time getting a new impeller on because they don't realize that this is broken off on that actual motor shaft where it screws into the impeller. Okay, so here we go. Here's the pump seal. So this is inside, you know, the back volute here of the wet end. You kind of see it moving a little bit when I press on it. It's well secured, not too hard to replace. So if somebody does need to replace this, it's, you know, you can push it out from the back a little bit here, pull it out and replace it. This is quite a bit different over here. Let's start with the impeller. It's a lighter, smaller impeller here. Looks like we do have some part number information on it. And actually, that's not what it is. But and what we're seeing here is like, this is right here, the same thing that we are seeing in here. Okay, let's take another look. So it's part of the seal, the shaft seal. Now, this is kind of what LX does, and this screws on to the impeller. Not really screw on, but I guess it kind of, you know, you turn it and it sticks. You can see right there. Turn it, it kind of sticks on. And then it sits inside the wet end there, or the volute. So it does have a second part here. It's really just like a white ring that then sits inside that as well. So see, it's quite a bit different here. So occasionally you'll get questions or concerns that, you know, someone that does need to replace a shaft seal on an LX and maybe receive something that they are not sure is what they need. And it's because it does have, you know, a different design, a different appearance than what you'll often see. This is a much more common design. So again, we look at this here. That's it. Fits right in there, right? So another thing to look at here, so we get these back in. I'm gonna put the wear rings back on. So I want to make sure I got, again, I don't think it matters a whole lot, but really, we now make sure we get them in the right place. That's for the Waterway. That's for the LX. We'll put them on this way with the wide end of the face here. When we are putting this back on, I have occasionally seen, you know, a technician or customer, they're like, okay, I lined this up. So they're looking at, you know, they're like, oh, I lined up the first couple. Like, you have to really make sure, like, you can start here and think, all right, I got those first two. Uh-oh, it's not lined up. So it is real important to take a look, make sure you're lining it up correctly. So just like that. And then obviously we're gonna use our screws that I've taken out of there to secure it back into place. Don't over tighten it, make sure it's secure, but using a drill, if you're using like an impact drill, be careful, especially with like maybe somewhat lower end, wet end, the plastic might be prone to breaking if you're tightening it too much. Same thing here. This one's a lot easier. You can make sure that it's, I mean, really it's kind of easy because it shows you the ridge there. So that one's quite simple to line up. Now, some of these you have to like kind of twist into place. So if you look at this right here, occasionally to make it really like seat in there, you gotta push it on with just a slight twist before you put on those bolts. So that's kind of just covering some of the basics of a wet end.